Good evening, everybody. This is Jeff Kamke here, and want to welcome you to another Periscope here on my channel. And if you're catching this on YouTube at a later date, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully what I cover tonight will be of value to you. And if you're checking this out on Facebook, well, I'm glad you're here as well. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about not selling yourself short in relationships. And what I do, I'm an advanced holistic healthcare practitioner. One of the things that I really am passionate about is relationships because like probably many of you, I've had good experiences in relationships, and some of them have been good learning experiences in relationships. And just to tell you a quick bit about myself and why I might be qualified to talk about this a little bit, is I had a several-year relationship that I learned a lot of things about myself and about how relationships work and how they don't work. And all even through high school, people always called me Dr. Jeff, just because you're gonna laugh at this. I used to come home from school when I was in I don't remember probably 10th, 11th grade, maybe somewhere in there, high school age. I'd actually watch Dr. Phil. I mean, what most high school kids do, and probably weren't watching that. But I was fascinated by a lot of things that he had to say and how the mind worked and those kind of things. And so I've always kind of had a thing for relationships and just helping people. A lot of my friends in high school would always come to me with relationship questions and advice. And even today, a couple weeks ago, I was helping a friend of mine that I knew back in 10th grade that she was having some relationship issues with a fiance, and I happened to be the right person at the right time to hopefully give her a little advice and point her in the right direction. And I know that I was a big help to her then. So the relationship that I had was about a 5-year relationship, and I'm somebody that you might be able to relate to this, that I don't like to give up. I probably should have given up a long time ago in that relationship, but I didn't. I wanted to try to see if I could make it work. Maybe I'm a little stubborn in that area, but I don't like to give up. And a friend of mine, he reminded me when that relationship did end, he's like, well, good people don't quit. And that was definitely something that I held true to. And in that relationship, as I reflected on it, now a couple years out of that relationship, now that I'm happily married and we've just had our son, he's actually 3 months old today. And as I reflect back on a lot of the things that made that last relationship not work and what has made my current relationship with my wife work very well, one of the things is when I came out of that last relationship, I wanted to make sure that I was going to attract my ideal mate the next time around. I didn't want to have to go through another 5-year relationship and another broken heart and wasting a lot of time. Is there a way to shortcut that? Well, I found that one of the best ways, and this is something that if you find people that have had a successful relationship, they've probably been doing this from the get-go. They've probably done it either knowingly, but probably more than likely unknowingly. They just innately did it. When they were looking for a mate, they had in their mind of what they wanted, not what they didn't want. And that's a huge distinction. I've done scopes on this in the past, and there's a huge distinction between not wanting somebody that is, going to argue with you or that doesn't spend money the way that you want to or doesn't raise your kids the way that you want to, versus wanting somebody that has good financial intelligence and raises children to empower them to become adults. There's a big difference between not wanting what we don't want and wanting what we do want. I'll probably have more periscopes on that later, but that's really not what I want to talk about tonight necessarily, although it is very much of the same discussion though. So I say that because knowing what you want and knowing what you don't want in a relationship will help you to aim high enough, because a lot of us have low self-esteem, low self-confidence. We don't think we're worthy of an ideal mate. We probably have a low belief that it can even happen, that there's even somebody out there that was going to like you and fall in love with you, because you probably see all your imperfections and see the things that somebody wouldn't want to date you or marry you for. But when you really think about it, there's 7 billion people on the planet, and there's definitely somebody for you. And if you believe in law of attraction, there are definitely people that you are attracting. Some of them you like, some of them you don't like. And you can use that power of law of attraction to attract in your ideal mate. And for the people that have their ideal mate, and you ask them some questions about, what were their thought processes, what were their beliefs as they were looking for a mate, you will find that they were using law of attraction, whether they realize it or not. You find people that have had multiple unsuccessful relationships. Maybe you can identify with people you know that the relationships change, the names change, the person looks maybe slightly different, but a lot of times they'll actually look the same, and the problems from one relationship to the next, or one marriage to the next, seems to just be the exact same. That's because that's what they're attracting in. Their law of attraction signal is attracting that in. So tonight's topic is, not aiming low, aiming high when you're wanting an ideal mate. When you want to try to attract your ideal mate, maybe through using the law of attraction or whatever method you think is the one that works good for you, just make sure you're aiming high enough, because if you aim too low, that's what you settle for, and that is exactly what you get. So when I was coming out of my 5-year relationship, I knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want, because I had a lot of experiences in 5 years to clarify what I didn't want. So now when I was ready to start dating again, after several months of kind of, just having some Jeff time and hanging out and, reflecting and analyzing, that's something I like to spend a lot of time doing. I'm an only child, so I spend a lot of time up here in my own head, which is sometimes a curse. Just ask my wife. But it is something that I do quite a bit, is reflect and analyze, and what worked, what didn't work, what was I thinking, what was I doing in these particular situations that could have aided in the way in the outcome of them. So as I was ready to start dating again, though, after several months, I started really wanting to make sure that I was going to get my ideal mate, and I didn't want to leave anything to chance, because I knew I was going to attract this person in via law of attraction. So why not, if I'm going to use law of attraction, why settle for middle of the road? Why get some of the things you want in a mate? Why not get all of the things you want in a mate? And maybe there might be one or two that you don't, but there's a lot of people that I know that they've written down a list, and this is exactly what I did. I wrote down a list of the exact qualities and characteristics that I wanted in my ideal mate, and I think all but like one of them came true, and the one that didn't really come fully true was partially true. So it's very important that whatever you aim for, you will probably hit. And not just probably hit, you will hit it. So if you aim low, that is exactly what you get. And for the people that have had struggling relationships, they seem to attract the same, girlfriend or boyfriend or fiance, or even husband or wife over and over and over again. They're probably not aiming high enough. Or if they are, they have conflicting beliefs internally about themselves, that they're pushing that kind of a person away, and they're still actually just attracting at a lower level that's aiming too low based on what they believe is possible or what they're worthy of. So making sure you aim high enough. So really think about how can you aim high enough? How do you know you're going to aim high enough? Well, think back over past relationships, or if you have yet to have a relationship and you're wanting to get into a love relationship, look at people you know. Have your parents, have they had a successful relationship, a successful marriage? Or maybe it's people at church, maybe it's friends, maybe it's friends of the family. Look for people that have had really successful relationships. Or even, for instance, I was in Panera Bread last week, I think it was, and my wife was in changing our son, and I was just kind of observing some people, and for whatever reason, it must have been elderly night out to go to Panera, because there was many elderly couples that seem to walk into Panera, which I don't usually see too often. But anyway, there was a couple that I noticed where they parked. The old guy, I'm thinking probably in their 70s, maybe even a little older. He got out, went around to the other side of the car, opened the door for his wife, and they held hands all the way across the parking lot and into the restaurant. So those are people that, I thought about, I could go over and ask them, what in the world, after this many years, why are you still in love, or you want to hold hands walking into the parking lot? Because you've probably seen the elderly couple where the wife, if she's, maybe in a little bit better health and isn't limping, she's 30 paces ahead of the guy and he's limping, and, they don't do anything together. They're just, kind of coexisting. Well, if you want more than that, find people that have the kind of relationship that you want. And if you have not dated or haven't been married, go find those people and kind of figure out what they were doing. What did they look for? And know what worked for them. Know what didn't work for them. And if you have had relationships, look at what worked, what didn't work. And from there, you can kind of formulate in your mind, okay, well, if this didn't work, I was obviously somehow attracting this negative situation in my life or this negative experience in these relationships, like arguing or not being on the same page spiritually. Maybe you know have different conflicting religious beliefs, and maybe you're like, for instance, my last relationship, we were both Christian, quote unquote Christian, but our beliefs within Christianity were very different. So that was one of the major conflicts we had. Could you look at spending habits? How do you want to spend your money? Do you, are one of you an entrepreneur where you want to make big money and you want to think outside the box, and maybe you're not all for college, and maybe the other person is all for college. They think that the way to succeed is, to get the degree and work up the corporate ladder. Your idea is to just own the ladder. If you've read Robert Kiyosaki's books, that's one of his concepts. So look for those things, because even how to raise your children or where to live, there's all kinds of things that you need to have it straight in your mind. What do you want that to look like ideally? And aim high. Don't settle. Don't go, well, if I can't have that, oh well, at least I can have some of these other things. Because a friend of mine that I have just recently been giving a little bit of advice to, that's kind of what she did. There's a few areas that she said, well, hopefully we can work things out, and I know relationships are give and take, and you have to compromise. Well, you don't do that in the core key areas, the fundamental foundational areas of a relationship, on the like how to raise your family, how to raise your kids, what's kind of schooling you want, what kind of career you want, how to spend money, how are you gonna spend your weekends, what kind of hobbies do you have? There's those key things that you want to make sure you have straight in your mind and have it the way you want it. Because as you start looking for somebody, if they don't fit that ideal criteria, you just need to say pass. Not you don't meet it. You don't meet the ideal criteria. And chances are, if you get very specific on exactly what you want, you won't have to say pass to many people. For instance, when I started looking for somebody after my last relationship, and I met my wife, which I did know previously from youth group, but I was the shy kid in the corner, so we never ever really talked. But we reconnected after probably 10 years or more, 10, 12 years. And it was the first date, really even before the first date, I was talking through Facebook, that it was, I think both of us pretty much knew this was it. We didn't have to look any farther. We didn't have to say, not what I'm looking for, thanks anyway, pass. You didn't have to do that. So if you get things straight enough in your mind and you know exactly what you're looking for, and you won't settle for anything less, when you start looking, you're probably going to find what you're looking for, and you're going to hit what you're aiming for. So if you're aiming high and you have exactly the type of person you want in your mind, you know how you want to raise your kids, and that's what you're putting out. You know how you want to, your view and philosophy around finances, and that's what you're putting out. You have your certain religious beliefs. That's what you're putting out. Well, guess what? You're going to find that. If that's what you're putting out and that's what you're aiming for, and you're expecting to have happen, and if you're religious and you believe God is going to bring that person into your life, that's what you're praying for, that is what's going to happen. If you're using law of attraction, that's what's going to happen. Whatever you're putting out there, you're going to get back. That's a spiritual principle around the world. In pretty much every religious text, there's that principle. So why not use it? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of idea of, if you've had relationships in the past and they're just not working out. And this could really be taken outside of just love relationships. It could be for friendships. It could be for any kind of relationship. If you're having struggles with any kind of relationship, these principles work. It could be called boundaries. It could be you teach people how to act around you based on what you allow them to get away with. And if you aim low, you're going to get a low level of behavior back. If you expect excellence out of everybody and you expect respect, that's a mouthful, expect respect out of everybody, then you will get that. And if you aim low and just tolerate whatever, coworkers or family members are doing, you're going to, who knows what you're going to get? You're going to probably get more than you want, and it's going to make for a miserable life. And that's something that my wife and I had to do. We had to, had a family issue where we had to kind of cut ties, at least through the social media networks, with some family members, because they were just too negative, and we had an expectation level that they weren't meeting, and we know that they're better than that. So we had to draw the line in the sand and say, you know what? If you want to have contact with us through social media, which it is very convenient to keep each other up on what our kids are doing and what's going on in each other's lives, but if you're going to be negative about the things that we believe in and the things that we feel is right to do for our family and for our lives, then you're not going to be in our lives in that respect. So those are things you might have to do. And if you're aiming low, you will tolerate too much crap, and you don't need any more crap. Life is already too stressful. The world is already too stressful. There's already too much going on. So aim higher because you're worth it. And if you think you're not, do this quick exercise. And it might actually be quick, but do this exercise. Sit down with a piece of paper. At the top of it, write down, why am I not worthy of, an ideal relationship? Or why am I not worthy of respect? Or why am I not worthy of whatever? And let your mind give you the answer, because it will give you the answer if you let it just kind of spill its beans, if you'll do that. So if you're having an issue in your relationship, whether it's finding a love relationship or just even in a family or friend relationship, maybe you need to prune some dead branches. Figure out what you can do. Why are you settling for less? Because if you aren't, then you're going to have some fantastic things happen in your relationships. So I don't think there's anybody on at the moment, so I won't ask for any questions, but if you're seeing this on YouTube, leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts or experiences on things. If you're on Facebook, write me a comment, share it with your friends if you found this valuable. Share it with your friends on Facebook, because I want to grow my channel and help more people with my experiences. So that's all for tonight, folks, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks.